Hi, everybody. RivkaLeah here. I hope everybody had a fabulous week. It was beautiful here where I am. And so I wanted to start out first with last week it felt a little off to me, and that has a little bit to do with what I'm going to talk about tonight, which is leadership. But I wanted to apologize to everybody if it felt a little stunted, a little strained. That was on me, and I felt off about it, and I should have said that first off. So I just wanted to put that out there to everybody. And again, I'm going to show you how that leads into what we're going to talk about tonight, which is leadership of your own life. But first, before I do that, again, welcome. Thank you for being here. And as always, I am not a doctor or a therapist, and everything that I talk about has to do with my own experiences or experiences of my trusted friends. And last week, I did talk about you don't have to pick up all the strays. And it was a tough subject for me. And I did not talk about it last week because, yes, I did have experience with picking up a quote unquote stray. And it actually had to do with helping somebody with their dogs. Okay, so the literal strays. This individual was going through a dark time, or so I thought. But they kept telling me they had a dark cloud over their head. And what I learned from this experience is when somebody tells you something about themselves and they reiterate it over and over and over again, and their actions confirm that, they're not lying. Okay. So this individual kept telling me they had a dark cloud, nothing good ever happens to them, and on and on and on. I, being an empathetic individual, and I don't want to see animals suffer, I offered to help this individual. I agreed to take their dogs for a weekend so that they could get themselves situated. That turned into almost 3 months of my having two extra dogs. I have a dog. The dogs did not get along, so I needed to keep them separate. At the time, I lived in a very small house. This individual also wanted to move in with me. That was not going to happen. Because of the situation with all of the dogs, I decided I no longer wanted to be in the community that I was in because those dogs now brought a lot of negative energy to me. And I put my house up for sale and I sold it and I left. This individual was upset that I was no longer now 100% taking care of their dogs, and was upset that I was buying a house and not asking them to come live with me. Well, that's not what I'm going to do. I was trying to help you. But again, this individual was very honest and open with me and told me that they were a dark cloud. So I said, have a nice day. Here are your dogs. I wish the dogs well. And that was that. So again, I apologize last week for not really going into that and showing how these things affect your life. And I worded things, in my opinion, a little inappropriately. I kept saying, you shouldn't do things. And that's inappropriate because we are in a collective. We are in a safe place here. And this is not a me or a you or an I or a you. This is a we. We are a collective. We are here to support each other in a safe place. And I want everybody to feel comfortable with that. That being said, because of picking up the strays and, all the other trauma that I believe a lot of people encounter, and trauma is going to be different for every single person, okay? And that is not to negate that one person's trauma is more or less than somebody else's trauma. Trauma is trauma, and each person internalizes that and responds to it based on their life. Okay. So I'm not minimizing anybody's trauma. And I'm not maximizing anybody's trauma. Everybody is here in a safe place. But what I learned from this experience and all of the other experiences in my life was how to take leadership of my life. In the past, I would just kind of allow things to happen. I didn't want to speak up. I didn't feel I could speak up. And then when I did speak up, people would get upset, right? Because that took away from what they wanted. And it wasn't, I actually was doing something for me, and that was unacceptable in other people's opinions. So when I came to the realization that in order to be in integrity with myself and to be my authentic self, I needed to take leadership of my life. And that looks like showing respect for myself, okay? That looks like supporting myself and joining groups and individuals that support each other. It involves having very positive energy and positive vibes. And once I started doing that, I realized that the negative people kind of fell away. And I kind of forgot that a little bit a few years ago when this individual came into my life. And I was like, I really liked the dogs. And honestly, it was all about the dogs. And, I kind of forgot because I really wanted to help these animals. But I was not being a leader of my life. I kind of forgot all the steps that I had taken to get there. And when I started to step back into the leadership role of RivkaLeah, I realized I was not being authentic. So how how can we do this in a positive way and realize that by supporting ourselves, we will then attract more people like us in like the same energy level, like the same vibration, are on similar paths to us. So there is a speaker that I listened to. He's got several. I believe the last count I heard, he said he had 73 books. His name is John C. Maxwell. And one of his books, I believe, is the 25 steps to leadership or something like that. And now he talks about them in the realm of business. But my thought process is in along my healing journey, I have found that a lot of things correlate and they cross over. So things that you can do in business, you can do in your personal life. So like when you're a leader and you confront somebody, you're not going to do it in a negative way. You're going to do it in a constructive criticism or a constructive way. And you wouldn't do that if it's not something that you would accept for yourself. So being the leader of your life, that's how you know you're doing it correctly. Or that's how I know I'm doing it correctly. I'm not going to come up to somebody, say, for example, if they do something that they know is going to trigger me, I'm going to address it in a constructive way. I will ask why they did such a thing, what we can do to resolve the issue, let them know where I'm coming from, because I need to keep that sacred self-care, positive space around me. And having somebody do something that infringes on that, and they perhaps step on some boundaries that were pretty clear, it gets upsetting. But I need to take that leadership role in my life and let them know where I stand and figure out ways on how we can make this situation better so that it's better for both of us. And realize that again, when you become the leader of your own life, you can look at leadership as a scale of 0 to 10 or 1 to 10, whichever you want to do. And if you're just starting out on your healing journey and you feel, oh my goodness, I really haven't been a leader of my life, I'm maybe a 1. And you start listening to a bunch of books or following some groups, talking to other individuals, and you find a mentor or you find somebody who you really look up to and their style and how they're living their authentic life and how they're staying in integrity with themselves, and they're, say, a 7. You start working your way up and following what they're doing so that you start coming up. And then all the other people start falling away. So now you started at a 1, you were working with a 7, you are now a 5, and all the others kind of are looking up to you now. And now you get up to the 7, and that 7 is a 9, and everyone below you is now looking up to you. So you're learning new skills, and these are all skills that we've talked about in all of the past weeks, whether it is the self-care, whether it is setting your boundaries. These are things that you do to take that leadership in your life. If you think of your life like you would think of a business, you're the president of your own life, right? Or the CEO of your own life. So you're going to want to have a structure. And again, I apologize. I shouldn't keep saying you're going to want to. We are going to want to, or I, for example, I have a structure in my life so that I know that I can move to certain levels. I have worked myself up from, I personally don't think that I was ever a 1. I would say I was probably a 3. Um, and I've worked myself up from that 3 leadership model. And I believe that I'm up to like an 8. Um, but that doesn't mean that I think that I don't have more to do. I think that this is a path that I'm on, and I will continue to learn and grow. Let's see, what are some of the other things that I wanted to talk to you about? Okay, well, that's not working. I had a couple other notes here. Here we go. So one of the other parts of being a leader is taking responsibility, right? And that's exactly what I did when I first started this. I took responsibility for what I interpreted as a flaw last week. And if you got benefit out of last week, great. I'm happy that I helped somebody. Just know that I was not happy with what I provided. I felt I could have done more. But that is not to take away from anyone who got something positive out of that. But that is part of my leadership. I wanted to be upfront and take responsibility. I have set my mindset, which is always an upward growth mindset, and these are things that I've talked about in the past. So if you look at all of the different things that I've talked about each week, they all kind of fit together. Again, like I said, if you look at things in business or you look at things spiritually, everything kind of intertwines. You have to have the right positive growth mindset in business. You have to have the growth mindset in your spirituality. You have to have the growth mindset in your life. Okay. And then you take responsibility for things that you've done in the past that you realize now may not have been in integrity with who you are now. You take that responsibility and you know that you're not going to do that again. One of my friends and again, I'm terrible at quotes. I love quotes, but I can never remember who says them. And she has a painting that she had done, and it says, "Don't look back. You're not going in that direction." And it's true. So I can look back to see mistakes that I feel I've made. I can take the responsibility for them or the accountability, and then I jump into my growth mindset and I look to see what I can do to go forward. And I do that by developing my emotional intelligence, right? I know now what I need emotionally to get to where I want to be. I have the boundaries set. I have constructive conversations with individuals so that those boundaries aren't stepped on and they don't do things that could be considered triggering. Um, and then I take that action. And again, that action is having a constructive conversation. Thank you, Mary Engelbreit. Don't look back. You're not going that way. Exactly. You're not going that way. So why are we harping on the past? Why are we looking behind us? That's not where we're going. Um, so after we take action, our constructive conversations, our setting boundaries, we cultivate a supportive network. For example, here in the collective, we have a safe place to come, a safe place to learn and to grow, to ask questions. And then we embrace our adaptability. We look at the fact that we have come through whatever it is we've come through, because again, everybody is unique. Everybody has their own trauma that they've come through, their own issues that they've come through, their own lives that they've come through. So you've learned, everybody here has learned a different way of looking at things and a different way of adapting. Let's see, a part of my growth mindset, I mended things with my see, that's awesome. You acknowledged the past, you became adaptable so that you can change the future. You took action and now you're going forward. A huge weight came off and you have a positive, bright future to look forward to. So in that instance, perhaps you thought if you were going to grade this on a leadership ranking before having this conversation with your mother, you may have thought you were like a 3 leadership level, but you knew you were going to have this conversation. You went and talked to her. So you took that action, you took the responsibility, and you embraced it, and now you move forward. So you've advanced on your emotional level. So now maybe you're a 4 or 5 leadership. And these are hypothetical. Obviously, I'm not saying what you are. This is an example. The other thing that I like to talk about, and again, these are all things that I've talked about every week, and I do try to continue to say the same things over and over because these are things that I wish people had said to me, or things that I was able to access when I was struggling or I was going through a bad time, is to continue learning, right? That's part of taking action, is to find things new that can help you along your way on your journey. And again, coming into the collective is a great way to do that because there's so many amazing individuals in here that have a wealth of information that they're willing to share. So if you have questions, you can put it out there, and there will be people that will come and answer your questions and give you the support that you're looking for. Another, and again, I talked about integrity, and while we're doing all of this, staying in integrity with yourself, staying in your authenticity, becoming the person that you want to be. And as a leader, you're trying to shape and mold other people around you. If you're a business owner, for example, you want to shape people around you. Well, you want to be that person that they are going to want to emulate. If you come in and you're an ass, do you want your employees to be asses? No. So you're not going to be a leader of the asses. You're going to be a respectful leader, and you're going to have constructive conversations with people. How do we move forward? Put things to rest and allow emotions to not well up. Again, that is going to be different for every single person, depending on the type of trauma that people have come through. Your body is an amazing, amazing machine, and your body stores trauma, immense amounts of trauma, and the human body can withstand a lot. And people sometimes, in my opinion, don't realize that sickness and illnesses come from all the dis-ease. That's where the word disease comes from, is when your body is at a dis-ease with itself. All that trauma has been stored in your body, and that turns into the flu. That turns into arthritis. That turns into high blood pressure. So when your emotions continue to well up like that, especially after you've had a lot of memories come up, someone has triggered you because they've done something that you've specifically asked them not to do, how I would deal with that, I would ground myself, whether it be in nature. You can take an Epsom salt bath. Salt is a really, really good grounding tool. You can stand in the grass, be in nature. That will discharge a lot of the negative energy out of your body and help you come back into, and I've talked about this in the past, take you out of your head and put you back into your heart so that you can process those emotions in a calmer way. Okay. So I also want to say, if doing this, you feel like perhaps you've fallen backwards a little bit, or you might view it as a failure, try to look at it as a learning opportunity. You've come through these past experiences, and now you're trying to move forward, but something has triggered you and you feel like maybe you've slipped back a little bit. So look at that experience and say, hey, why did I slip back? What can I take from this so that I can be the leader of my life and move forward? Right. And you can do that with your self-care. You can do that with your journaling. You can do that with your meditation. And again, these are all things that we've talked about each week and how they play such an integral role in our lives, and, setting time for perhaps deep breathing. And then once you do that, celebrate your achievements. Shingles manifests when you're under stress. Yes, it does. I don't think that a lot of people understand every single disease can be associated with your body's response to some sort of event. Your body is trying to fight it off in any way it can. And if it becomes overloaded, this dis-ease starts manifesting. If you and and also I've read several articles. If you start, words have power. I've talked about this as well. If you continue to say so and so is a pain in my butt, I can't believe what a pain in the butt this person is, and all of a sudden you start walking around and you have a cramp in your butt or in your lower back region, guess what? You just manifested that with your negative stance, with your words, with bringing in that negativity, and your body doesn't know how. It's trying to protect you, but it's going to just put it all in one spot. And that spot is right what you were talking about. You know, I've said this before. I am is a huge statement. I am having a bad day. Guess what? You're going to have a bad day. and I don't want to sound, I seem to like to swear tonight, so I don't want to sound like an ass, but a lot of people I see that say I am having a bad day, they have a bad day. So I try not to put a negative with that I am. Does that explain why we get so exhausted when we go through an emotional episode? It absolutely does. Your body is trying to dissipate those emotions. It is trying to get it off of you so that your central nervous system can come back into the proper alignment of where it's supposed to be. And it can result in depression. It can result in you wanting to sleep all the time, being lethargic. Big emotions have a big drain on the body. Let's see, what else? Another thought that I had is when you're coming through your life and you're wanting to be the leader of your life, and you think that you're doing the absolute best that you can, but you've also embraced learning and in that continued learning, like we just talked about, and somebody comes up with an idea that you hadn't thought of before, or you'd like to try it. So guess what? That may be the best idea for you to go forward. It doesn't always have to be your idea to be a leader. A leader accepts that they don't have to have 100% of the answers, but that they are willing to look to the right resources and embrace the answers that benefit them in their life. So how well you lead your life is going to be how well you succeed in your life. And if you're going to, again, I apologize, I should not keep saying if you're going to, if we're going to, and I need to keep checking myself on that, because as the leader of my life, I don't want to polarize people and to have people think that I'm, being accusatory or singling them out. So again, in the collective, we are a group. So if we are going to lead ourselves, yes, thank you, we are the collective. If we are going to lead ourselves and we want to succeed in our lives, we're going to ask good questions that resonate with us. And again, those questions are going to be different for everybody because everybody's at a different point in their journey and in different points of their lives. So the questions are going to be different, but you're going to ask those questions. And your answer does not have to be the best answer. You can ask that question and think you have the answer, but then you embrace your learning and you may find that answer from somebody else. And you're like, oh my goodness, wow, I didn't think of that. And that really is the best answer to help propel me forward in my life. So I know I've rambled a lot. I hope this was a little cohesive. If anybody has any comments or questions that they have about that, please let me know. I'm very passionate about this. Again, as I said, I was not happy because I was not as forthcoming last week as I had planned to be. I hit a stop in my own, and that was something that I needed to reflect on over the last week and find out where that was coming from and where I was in my leadership with myself. I had come through this situation. I took that leadership role of my own life. I eliminated the bad, you can't help everybody. You don't have to take all those strays in. And I realized that and I moved forward. But I realized that I did not express that properly last week. So I needed to reflect as to why did I not express that properly last week. And it was because I still felt terrible. I felt guilty for being in that situation in the first place. Why didn't I see that sooner? This individual told me straight up that they were a negative person. And The old RivkaLeah came out and said, nope, I can help. I can fix it. And guess what? It's not my job to fix anybody. It's no one's job to fix anybody else. You can only help yourself. So that's what I worked on this week with myself. I reaffirmed my goals, my values. I made sure that I was in integrity with myself. I made sure I was being my authentic self. And I reinforced boundaries around my life that need to be reinforced. And that's where it needs to stand. People are not going to cross the boundaries that I have put up because I need to protect certain areas of my life. Okay. When you come through traumatic situations, there are people and situations that you don't need to be around any longer. And if they come into your life and you have a boundary and someone is trying to breach that boundary, you have every right to remind them that you have a boundary for a reason. And that is you being the leader of your life. So I will leave you with that. I hope this wasn't too heavy. I hope people got a little bit out of it. I hope that you, can see how things kind of weave together in every area of your life. And I look forward to seeing everybody next week. Again, don't forget that we have our podcasts coming out every Tuesday. You can find them here in the group and on YouTube. We have a lot of other fabulous things coming out. And I just hope that everybody takes a little bit of time to rest, reflect, figure out where you are as a leader right now, set your goals on where you want to be as the leader of your life, take that action, and have a fabulous, fabulous weekend. So, cheers, everybody.